Baby boxes and Airbnb. A couple of things we'll discuss this week on our City Hall segment. Our pleasure to welcome City Councillor for Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve, Alia Hassan Cournol, joins us once again. Also has a new role on the Executive Committee for Economic Development. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Elias, and congratulations to you and Olivia.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll get to the baby boxes in a second, but I take great note. You're on the Executive Committee on Economic Development, okay?
Yes.
We had the leader of the opposition, Ensemble Montreal, Aref Salem. He was on the program in the last hour. And we were talking about the disastrous numbers from Montreal International about foreign investment falling off a cliff. And we were just talking about various things and why things seems to be stuck in neutral or worse in the city of Montreal. Have a listen to what Aref Salem had to say about some of the decisions of your administration.
Well, it's a lack of leadership of the administration. That's for sure. You know, as mayor of Montreal, I mean, she should be all over the world right now telling the investors to come to Montreal. She should be putting Montreal on the map. That's what she's not doing at all. And I'm worried because, you know, when I see the crisis in Montreal, when I see the housing in Montreal, the crisis of housing in Montreal, you know, the Hippodrome, it belongs to the city. We can build tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow we could, right?
And there is nothing happened for the last 6 years, and we're waiting. They start their 7th years of administration, and nothing happened there. How can you be attractive? How can Montreal be attractive once you have a project that you can deal with as an administration and you're not dealing with?
So that's an easy one, right? Blue bonnets and how nothing has happened on that site. But to me, I take that note on economic development, and that's part of your dossier right now. So how would you respond to Aref Salem?
Well, it's an easy one for RF to say, first of all, saying the mayor should be everywhere around the world. And in another interview at City Hall saying she has to stay here and we need to be careful in the spending of the city of Montreal. Come on. Okay, let's be serious and talk about the figures of Montreal International. Over the last 2 years, there's been a booming in the foreign investment in Montreal because of the post-pandemic and the development of technologies. So people needed to be working remotely from home. So that was a huge investment and attraction of companies and software company in Montreal. And now this exact same industry is getting
contraction.
jobs.
There's contraction.
Exactly. There's contraction and they're cutting jobs. So the investment we're saying, it's pretty much where we were before the pandemic. And that's showing that Montreal is getting more stable in terms of attracting companies. And the field where we are seeing foreign investors coming are aerospatial in Longueuil and in Montreal, sustainable development and the environment, still video games and cultural companies. So really, the investment we are seeing in Montreal, it's a good sign. It shows that 55% of those investments are going downtown. The rest is going east side. So it's very... it shows the effort we're putting in the fields where we want to be. And otherwise, we're also seeing investors going to the broader CMM, Laval, Longueuil, Rive-Sud, and this is good. This is exactly where we need to be. And of course, the post-pandemic was a very special economic environment. We're still in the aftermath of the post-pandemic. This is for sure. And this is why we see those figures right now at Montreal International.
Can I just ask you, because Valerie Plante, the mayor, was vocal about the decision on the tuition changes for Concordia and McGill. Got her into some trouble with the premier. I think you heard the premier talk about her on that end. But do you have a worry that those decisions that really do hurt Concordia and McGill, are you worried that could have a long-term effect on foreign investment and investment in the city in general?
It does. It does, of course. You know, Elias, my own story for me was to come in Montreal because I was an international student. And that's the reason why I chose Montreal back in 2011. And I actually got the help of Montreal International that had a program with the immigration minister, and that got canceled too. And yeah, Concordia and McGill, they do need a fight. We need to still attract international. I mean, we're recognized and known around the world to be diverse, to attract students, to attract talents, to have innovative chair of research, and to have innovative companies. And we need to see the efforts going that way.
We're with Alia Hassan Cournol, who is on the executive committee for the City of Montreal, economic development, part of her dossier. So I want to ask you about Airbnb. There was a building that locals had long thought was being used for Airbnb in Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve that was recently vandalized. There is a promise of tougher rules for Airbnb. What are you doing on that front?
Well, back in April, we've passed a bylaw at the borough to forbid commercial Airbnbs across Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve. So that cannot be clearer on the side of Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve. It's no Airbnb, period. But on the other hand, we're seeing developers going across the bylaw we pushed, and this is where we have a problem. In the case of that particular building, I'm going to be careful because there's a lawsuit against the borough, so I'm not going to comment on that particular file. But let's talk macro level. We do see property owners having prête-nom. So they say they reside permanently in the building, and then they put the announcement on Airbnbs like the bylaw permits. Mm-hmm. And that is where the problem. And on putting fines and giving the fine, it is the responsibility of the government of Quebec through Quebec Revenue. And this is where Mayor Plante and my mayor in Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve that were very clear last Tuesday. We need to have the proper tools given by Quebec for us to implement the regulation and the bylaw we passed locally and through the city of Montreal. And this is where we are.
So I want to, on this subject on Airbnb, here's my issue. Sometimes I sense a little bit of hypocrisy, not with the government per se, but with all of us in general. We hate Airbnb in our city, and then when we travel, often we want to use Airbnb when we go to another city. And I bet you, if I went through the travel plans of members of Projet Montréal on their vacations, if I had access to the credit card bills, I'd probably find Airbnb somewhere, right, over the last few years. Do you sense that any bit of hypocrisy in trying to ban it here, but using it when we go on our own trips?
Yeah, we might use Airbnb from time to time. The problem is not the platform itself, it's the way we use it. And when we have a lack of housing and housing spaces and places, and we see promoters going around the bylaw, this is where we have a problem with Airbnb. We passed the bylaw here in Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve against commercial, and I want to point that out, commercial Airbnbs, because we have a very low housing rates. We don't have so many spaces in Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve for our citizens to have proper access to housing. And when we have those kinds of situations, it puts out of the market 10 to 15 apartments that could be directly going to the citizens of Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve. So let's say, Elias, you're renting on Airbnb your apartment because you're going on vacation 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This is not a problem. Or when you have your CITIC permit, This is not a problem as well, but this is when we go around the bylaws and we're putting out of the market units that goes to our citizens where we have a problem.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there on that front. But Alia, as to leave, I'll leave you with this note. My kudos for the baby box, right? The big announcement for 2024 is there would be a baby box from the City of Montreal for all newborns. Lo and behold, my baby arrived on January 7th. So Olivia and I went on Monday to the local library in NDG, and we picked up our box. And I got to tell you, it really is fantastic. So credit.
I'm very happy to hear you say that.
Credit where credit is due. All the items in there very useful. We didn't have pretty much all of the items in there were things that we hadn't gotten yet, and they're high quality. Represent Montreal, local artists. It was really well done. And I'll give kudos to your colleague because as we left the library, coincidence or you're tracking.
I know you ran into Despina.
That's right. And that's either the craziest coincidence, the woman responsible for the baby box, Despina Surias, or you're tracking me with a GPS tracker. One of the two. But it really is good stuff, so I'll give you the credit there. Thanks so much for coming on this week.
Thank you, and congrats again, Elias.
Merci beaucoup. Alia Hassan Cournol is a city councillor in Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve.